welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, I have been doing what I call Werewolf Summer. It's a whole thing. There's a playlist if you want to learn more about it. But I've been doing a series of builds in The Sims 4 Moonwood Mill world that comes with the Werewolves pack in The Sims 4, if that made sense. This is the third build, and I'm very excited to show it to you. A few disclaimers before we get into the build. One, I don't use any custom content or mods, not because I don't think they're good, but because I am building with a MacBook Pro and it is just not ideal. I do, however, use cheats and debug items pretty frequently in my builds, so there's that. And third, and most importantly, I don't play The Sims, I only build. So I am never building for functionality or playability. I'm only ever building for aesthetic and vibes. I also don't play test my builds, so I don't know how functional they are. I do always upload my builds to the gallery in case you want to use them, but if you do, keep in mind that you may need to make some alterations to it if it is not functional. Again, I really don't know, but just a warning. Now, if you watch my comprehensive guide to a Werewolf Summer, you might have wondered why I didn't include the Twilight franchise when I am historically an unapologetic fan of the Twilight franchise. There are two very specific reasons for that. The first one being that the Quillettes are not werewolves. They are technically, canonically, shapeshifters who shapeshift into the form of wolves. And now that is a distinctive difference that is really a technicality that I would look past if it wasn't for the second and much more, in my opinion, important reason, which is that the Twilight franchise is an autumn franchise. This is not Werewolf Autumn. This is Werewolf Summer. We have Werewolf Summer, Twilight Fall. Those are two distinctly different seasons. They do, of course, have a lot of overlap, but I digress. I did always plan to sneak some sort of reference into one of these builds to the Twilight franchise, and for the longest time, I couldn't figure out what that reference was going to be. I knew I couldn't do like La Push Beach because that would be so boring. It would be like some rocks and some water. It would take me 10 minutes to build, 5 minutes to film. There's no point in that. And I don't really like replicating film houses or like real places in The Sims because if I can't get the exact proportions or find enough items that look identical to the real items, then I just don't want to do it. But I do like referencing things in my builds, so I couldn't do like Jacob's house or anything like that. So here's the thing. Far more frequently than most people would probably enjoy, the baseball scene from the Twilight movie appears on my TikTok For You page. It's an iconic scene. We all know and love it. It's one of my personal favorites. And at one point, I watched a TikTok and I said, that would be fun. But then I was like, I can't do that because the wolves aren't even in the scene. It's just the vampires. So how does that count? It doesn't. But once I thought about it, I couldn't unthink about it. And I wasn't coming up with any better ideas. So I just decided to lean into it. And then I leaned into it a little too far. And I ended up just making a whole baseball field. Because what was I going to do? Just put some trees and like an empty circle in the middle and call it a day? Because like that doesn't count either. That was less work than the push. So now here's the thing is I am not a sports person. I don't watch sports as an adult. I don't go to sporting events hardly ever. I'm most certainly not in any way, shape, or form athletic. But I did watch a lot of baseball in middle school and high school because I had a lot of friends who played baseball and softball for their schools and things like that. So I went to a lot of games. Also, my great grandmother watched a lot of baseball. So baseball is the one sport that is very nostalgic to me. And I do enjoy watching. Like I don't follow any teams. I couldn't name any players, but like baseball is one of the like very few sports that if it's on, like I'll enjoy watching it and I have a general understanding of what's happening. But again, I don't follow sports in the way that people who actually like sports do. So just like a disclaimer there, if you see that I made this build, don't think that I like sports because no. All of that being said, this is the baseball field that is a reference to Twilight, but somehow in no way a reference to the wolves in Twilight, even though they're also now werewolves, so this really doesn't even have a place in the series. Build. All right, so this is the little baseball field situation thing. Also, I should probably have addressed at the beginning of the video, I have been having technical issues with the mic that I have been using, and I am about to just give up on it. It seems like no matter what I do, it gets worse, not better. I have this mic that I'm just going to use for now until I can figure out what I'm going to do next. Hopefully this sounds okay, but I don't have anything to attach this mic to, and I move around too much to like attach you to my shirt or anything, uh, and it not interfere with the sound and like my hair and everything not interfere with the sound. So until I can find something to attach you to, I'm going to be navigating one-handed. So if the navigation of this build is a little funky, don't judge me. I'm attempting this one-handed. So hopefully we'll see how this goes. Anyway, this is a little baseball field. I love it. Also, I went off of quite literally 2 Google photos and memory. So if any of this is not realistic or accurate, don't come for me. I don't know. Why does it matter? It's not playable anyway. So we have the baseball field over here, the concession stand, and then a little like practice thing over here. So I guess we'll just start at the field first. For the field itself, this part was actually, I was going to say relatively easy. It was relatively easy up until actually finding like baseball plates or bases, whatever they're called. This is quite literally just like the dirt paint tool. It's kind of hard to see from the upward angle or like the bird's eye view, but I did elevate a tiny bit for the pitcher's mound. All of these white lines are quite literally just a fence. It's the window shoppers? Fence for window shopping. So I just mapped out from, again, like the 2 Google photos. All of the fencing around it is the debug fence that we all know I love. For the back part here, because for like safety purposes of everybody in the bleachers, there's the extra like fencing or netting to prevent baseballs from like flying over and hitting somebody. So I did just use the 9 key to elevate a bunch of the fence pieces and build a second layer. Nothing groundbreaking there. And then just some, I think, debug lights. And this is obviously very much not a baseball scoreboard, but it's the only scoreboard we have. So I just put it there. Okay. So I combed all of the packs that I currently possess and all of the debug menu, and I could not find any baseball plates of any kind or bases, whatever they're called, or baseballs themselves. I found baseball bats, but no balls or plates. So these are tables that I placed on the lower, like underground level, and then used the 9 key to elevate just like 1 notch above the surface. So it's the dressed squared table, what it looks like. It was like the only perfectly square white flat object that I could find that looked good for this. This is obviously not like a good. Is it a diamond? Is that what home base is? I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Uh, Normally the home plate looks a little different, but we're sticking with that. Anyway, and then we have these dugouts on both sides. They're pretty much identical on both sides. I think I maybe like moved around the water bottle placements and stuff, but each dugout has a fence coming in on either side here, and then just like the little doorway, this bench that runs all the way across the back. And then I just use a bunch of like debug items, water bottles, cans, stuff like that. There are some scratches on the back here from the werewolf kit. I hung some towels on the back wall here. These are the baseball bats that I found. They are angled like this to lean up on something, so I just lined a bunch of them in each dugout. Popped a cooler in there, some extra towels. I don't know why I put a bucket in this one. I don't think I put a bucket in the other one, but yeah, that is the dugout. Very simple. It's just like a 3-walled room with the angled roof. This dugout over here, yeah, it's quite literally identical except for like, oops, it's quite literally identical except for like where the water bottles are placed and different scratches on the back. So the dugouts are very simple. And then there is also an entrance on both sides of the field by the dugouts. I will tell you, I forgot to add that until I was taking the screenshots of the build. I always take my screenshots before I film. If I miss something or something is out of place, I will usually find it when I'm taking the screenshots. And boy, did I. Uh, Again, these builds are never functional. I don't build for functionality, but super unrealistic to have a baseball field that like you quite literally cannot get into from any of the sides. So I did have to move the fences around a little bit to make the like entrance area because there was not one. And again, this debug fence does not have a gate, so I couldn't like pop a gate in there. But yeah, that was my bad. So if you do choose to use this for any reason, you can get into the field. Uh, Thankfully, you almost could not have. Anyways, ooh, and a fun little detail on the back of the scoreboard here, I popped this poster up, or this like wall art piece. It's also over here as well, obviously. I actually really enjoy this piece a lot. I just think it's really cute. But I popped it up over here and then I also put it on the back of the scoreboard just as a fun little detail. I don't know how they got it up there. I guess ladders. I don't know. Now, both bleachers are pretty identical as well, except for just like the cups are placed in different places. And I think I used different crack decals on them or like placed them differently so they weren't so like copy pasted. But I tried a few different things on how to do bleachers, and I didn't like how quite literally any of them turned out. And I also couldn't find like a tutorial anywhere online of how anybody else had done bleachers. There was one creator, if I can find her again, I think I saw it on TikTok. If I can find it, I'll tag her. But she had built a like high school basketball stadium or something, I think. And it looked really sick. And she did her bleachers with steps as well, but they were solid and she like alternated the colors. It looked really, really cool. But those were like in like a different kind of bleachers. They're like indoor bleachers where these are obviously like outdoor. I was going for like the metal bleachers. I don't really know how else to explain that. Um, but hers were really cool. But this is what I ended up doing for the outdoor bleachers. It works well enough. I'm pretty happy with how it came out. So I just used the platform tool here and elevated it to the height that I liked, and then used, I think these are base game stairs. I know the railing going all the way around it and like the handrail is from the werewolf pack, but this is the floating modern stairway and it is base game. So I just did that one. I liked the way that it looked with like the metal bars in the back, not the fence, obviously, but those. And I liked how it turned out. And then I used some crack decals to distress it a little bit, make it look a little bit older, a little bit more worn. And then just used a bunch of decup, used a bunch of debug cups and cans to litter it as well. And then same thing over here. This one does have a megaphone because like somebody's cheering somebody on or yelling at somebody. Who knows? But the same thing, just put the cracks in different places and the cups. Otherwise, it is pretty similar. Don't look over there yet. We're not getting there. And then I don't know what this is called here, but I saw it in one of the two pictures that I looked at. And I know, like, I'm sure it's for like the scorekeepers to be able to see what's going on and like the announcer or whatever. Come on, hold on. There we go. We're just gonna lower the roof. So I popped two tables up here with laptops. This one is real old and real dingy. And then I did put a microphone there for like the announcer or the national anthem or something. I don't know. I figured they would need it. And on the front, there are three of these like speakers that are connected to the microphone, as you can see. Now, I will say, I don't love how this staircase is sitting. I built the baseball field on a diagonal because I wanted it to fit, because I wanted to be able to make the most use of the lot. And I figured building it diagonally into this corner made the most sense. And building the structure and all of these were super easy. The only thing was this one staircase because this is built at a diagonal at the back of the field or the front, I guess. Sure. Whatever. Um, that the staircase is diagonal from the platform. It stressed me out a little bit. I didn't love that at first, and I almost got rid of the structure because of it, but like it's fine. We're just leaving it. It adds character. I don't know. And then over here, we have the concession stand, my personal favorite part of any baseball field. I did just put a few picnic tables out here for fun, threw some cups on them in no particular order, a trash can, obviously, because we don't litter. Obviously, these people do. They just leave their shit everywhere. But it's in use. Whatever. And this is probably really silly to point out because probably no one actually cares, but I do want to specify that the difference in color between the roof and the wall is intentional. I did look up concession stands because like I remember what they look like, but I just wanted to make sure that my memory was correct. And I saw one picture in particular, and it kind of had this two-toned paint situation happening, and I really liked the way that it looked, so I did that. So I didn't like forget to paint the roof. I did do this on purpose, just as a thing I feel like I should say. And then I did the same trick that I did in my community garden build where I used a half wall and then that old factory shutter. A lot of times concession stands will have those like walk up windows and then the rolling doors or chain doors or whatever they're called that lock them up when they're not in use. So I just did two of them to make this window a little bit wider where the coffee stand only had the one. And then inside the concession stand, super simple. Because a lot of times in my experience, the concession stands were always like bare bones on the inside. It was quite literally like only the things they need, and they'd go to the store that day and get supplies. So there's just a sink, a trash can, cabinets all throughout here. This is a grill. I'm aware of that. I figured they would just be serving like hot dogs and hamburgers, and a grill would make more sense than like putting multiple ovens in here. So I just put a grill here because I thought it looked better and fit the function, the fake function, the function of the aesthetic better. This thing, because you know I love it, and it's in like every single build. And then uh, two refrigerators, a little bulletin board, and that supply shelf. Once again, every kitchen I build ends up with that one way or another, I guess, because it's just a good item. So the concession like stand itself is very simple. Some like ketchup and stuff over here. There is like the, you know, employees only door, whatever. On this side, again, like the back end of the scoreboard, I put this here as well because I do love this item and it just filled up the space quite nicely. Towards the back, though, I did do the back two panels on both sides, the same color as the roof, and I made the whole, come on, that one handed thing, man. The whole back of this the like white or whatever paint swatch because these are the entrances to the bathrooms and there's no like open or closed door, it's just a hallway. So I did the hallway and I think the wall behind the toilets the same blue, I think is what I did. We'll see in a second. But these are the bathrooms, and there's some vending machines back here, two trash cans as well. But for the actual bathroom layout, I kept them super simple. So each one has this little hallway, so you can't see from like outside. You actually have to like walk into the bathroom, so there's still some privacy without needing the door to get in or out. Both bathrooms are identical and super simple. I just did the three like bathroom toilet stalls and then three sinks, mirrors, soap dispensers, and paper towel holders. Super easy, super quick. Uh, it was really just a space filler. And then, like I said, that like blue color is on the wall behind the toilets, which is crazy how the lighting can sometimes look in here because I promise you that is the same swatch. That is identical. It won't change if I come over here. That's crazy because at least on my system, that looks like almost green, like teal maybe. Like those don't even look like the same color. Anyway, the lighting in here gets crazy. I did realize at some point that the concession stand would only ever really be viewed from the field itself and like the bleachers or from the front. Even the road goes this way, so nobody ever sees it from the far side, and this is all just trees and there's nothing happening back there. So I ended up throwing some graffiti on this side. I thought it was just like a nice, cute, fun little touch. This, please hold. What is happening? Okay, we're gonna sit right here. This is one of the swatches from like the newspaper wall art that I have on the other side and on the back of the scoreboard. It's just another swatch. There's I think four different art styles in that one piece and then like three or four colorways of each one. And then these two are graffiti pieces from Get Famous, I believe. So I just threw those up there. And then this little, I think it's like a breaker box. It's a debug item. So that was just like a nice little gap filler there. So I don't know. I just thought that was a cute little touch. And then I think we've pretty much covered everything except for this little thing back here. This was originally going to be like a batting cages situation, but then I saw this one debug item. It was basically like a speed detector or like a speed trap. Like I said, I'm not a sports person, but one of my favorite live action Disney movies has always been The Rookie. I watched it a lot growing up, and it's still like a comfort movie today. That's another reason why baseball specifically is like a very nostalgic sport for me is because of that movie. It is based on a real baseball player. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm not going to spoil it. You can watch it or look it up or look up the story or whatever. And honestly, it's been a little while since I've watched it, so I don't want to like butcher it and retell it incorrectly. But if you have seen it, you know what scene that this item is like in reference to. But when I saw that item in the debug menu, I was like, oh, I love that movie because it's the only thing that I can ever think of when I see these like speed traps is that movie. So it just made me very nostalgic. And I thought it was a nice little thing, even though it has nothing to do with werewolves or like quite literally anything else in the series. It was just like a nice little tiny, very niche Easter egg for myself. That was a fun little thing to put in here. So I just, instead of building a batting cage, I just build like a pitcher's cage. I don't even know if that's a thing, but I built one so I could put that there. And that was the whole point of this little corner of the lot. So, but yeah, I just thought that was fun. And I am probably going to watch that movie tonight because it's been a while and I really, really like it. So yeah, that is the baseball field. How we got from scene in Twilight in an empty field in the middle of the woods with just the vampires and has no relation to the wolves in any way, shape, or form and is technically irrelevant to Werewolf Summer to a full like high school neighborhood baseball field with bleachers and dugouts and a concession stand and a reference to the rookie. I don't know, but I hope you liked it. I will include screenshots like always, and also this will be up in the gallery if you want to use it or change anything about it or do anything with it, whatever. But yeah, that is it. Here are the screenshots.